Welcome back, guys. This is Inside FPL on the locker room vibes. So, game week 4 is done. It was all sorts of interesting. We had some players delivering for most managers, others also disappointing. But all in all, it's been an interesting game week. And as I always say, we are here for you. Just keep your fingers crossed and let's get into it. But before we do, I'd like you to kindly subscribe, hit the like button, leave a comment. Let's know how well you also did as well. This is a new channel. We are growing gradually. It's not going to be rosy, but we hope you stay, tag along, support, and let's get into it. Alright, so as I said, this week has been all sorts of interesting. We'll get into the fixtures, see who were the top performing players or the top performing fixtures or matches. Then we'll also look at let's look at a few um, selections here and there. So overall, we have let's take about two or three. So let's review this manager's team. So he had Van de Ven, he had Romero, he had Gabriel Magai, he had Salah, Caicedo, Haaland. Quite a good selection there. We also come to this manager. So he had Gabriel, Pedro Porro, Timber, Magai. He also had Caicedo, Palmer, Semenyo, Tonali, Haaland, Pedro. So one last player. So this manager is dropping. Let's see what he did different. So he had Raya, he had Riches, Cash, Kunate, Barnes, Salah, Madueke, Gapo, Haaland, Mateta, Rennes. So all in all, we could see some constants in Haaland. Let's get into the fixtures. So for the fixtures for this game week, we had Arsenal taking on Nottingham Forest, beating them comfortably at home by 3 goals to 0. I would attribute this basically to the change in manager. Now Nottingham Forest, a different team altogether. You could see from the match that they were focused on attacking. They played a very high line against an Arsenal team that likes to possess and break through the lines. As whilst the previous manager being Espirito would have been very conserved, been very structured, and I'm sure he would have conceded less. He would have conceded. He would have conceded less goals, or even he would have tried to make an effort on goal. But nevertheless, it was a good performance from them as well. So going into the future, I'm sure they can still provide the goods because attacking wise, they had some good opportunities which they couldn't really capitalize on. So let's see what the future holds for them. But I think attacking wise, they should be okay. Apart from that, you have to be very cautious. And all in all, my previous videos, if you really went through with me, you realize I mentioned a few players. I gave some few tips of some players to get from some fixtures, and apparently those players provided the goods. I did mention Mitoma. I mentioned Haaland. They gave the goods. I mentioned you should have some wing backs or defenders from Spurs. They gave the goods. So if you follow, you'll get the tips here and there. I am going for a different principle this season, or for a couple of weeks, after which I'm going to change. I'm trying to implement different principles to my team each game week. Now I'm just focusing on differentials, picking players or that most managers wouldn't have, and see how things go. So far, it's not been easy, but I'm hanging in there, and I'm still hoping for the best. So as I said, just stay tuned, roll with us till the end. You should get some tips. So as I said, it's been an interesting game week. So we had Bournemouth taking on Brighton and beating them by 2 goals to 1. Very interesting match. Semenyo in the mix there, giving some good points to managers. We also have the Crystal Palace Sunderland match. I was hoping for more from this, but rather unfortunately, it ended in a goalless draw, which is okay, at least you get a clean sheet if you had a defender from either team. Attackers, it will be very bad for you, but so far so good. We had Everton, Aston Villa, rather unfortunate. Most Grealish managers couldn't really get their points back, but let's see what the future holds. Even though they are taking on Liverpool in their next match, let's see how things go. Aston Villa, as I said, are still trying to find their feet. This was okay, at least a goalless draw where you'd have clean sheet bonus from a defender or midfielder. So let's see how that also goes for them. Leeds, Fulham. So you had just the goal for Fulham, not so much. Let's see how it also goes. The Newcastle Wolves, same here, just the goal for Newcastle. Let's see how it goes for them as well. Spurs beating West Ham by 3 goals to nil away. So they were away to West Ham and they beat them by 3 goals. Most of the performances came from defenders, which was quite good. So if you listen to my past or you watch my past videos, you realize I spoke about that. So it's a plus from the managers that who watch a video. So kudos to you. You also had Xavi Simons providing his first assist of the season. So it looks like there seems to be a bright future for him. This Spurs team have a lot of potential this season, so we'll keep our eyes on them. Chelsea too are still struggling to avoid conceding goals, so let's see how it goes for them. They ended up with a 2-2 draw against Brentford. It happened very late, but let's see how it goes. Palmer returned, scored a goal. Let's hope for the best. Then Liverpool taking on Burnley. I really hope this match would have produced more goals and brought a lot of returns to the Salah managers, but rather unfortunately it didn't. Neither did it happen for the strikers or any other player. So it's rather unfortunate there, but it's one of those things. It was just a structured match. At least a goal wasn't bad. They took it and they went away with all 3 points. So we had City, Manchester United. I was surprised by Amorim's structure playing a high line against the City team. They've always been very conserved when it comes to defending, sit a little bit deeper, control the game, but this decided to go with a slightly different approach, playing a higher line, which they got punished for severely. Haaland managers were very excited because this game week he provided the goals for them. Kudos to them. So I did mention Haaland as well as a good option. The other players not so much because it's all going to be about rotation. But so far the points were good from Haaland. That is if he had him. So kudos to every manager that had Haaland. So the top performance for this game week, we had Haaland, we had Semenyo, Salah also in the mix there, Joao Pedro, Caicedo, a whole lot of players, and it was quite interesting. So let's go through at least the most selected players for game week 4. We had Joao Pedro leading the charts, followed by Salah, Semenyo, Haaland, Kudus, we had Ekitike in the mix, we had Van der Ven in the mix. And I think all in all, it's played out for most managers because once you have at least the top 4, you should be okay. So if you had Pedro in the mix, you had Salah, you had Semenyo, you had Haaland, it's a plus. And if you also watched my previous video, as I've said earlier on, you'd realize I mentioned some few players you could use for differentials, others too you could really focus on, and all these players some way somehow provided. So it's been good. It's been good so far this game week for most managers, and this will keep on going. So if you watch our videos, you get interactive, you get to hear a few tips here and there. As I've said, I'm going in for a different tactics this season, so you wouldn't really want to if you don't have the patience as I do, you wouldn't really want to follow in my steps, because I'm looking for a different understanding. I want to try out different principles. So basically, that is what we are looking for, or that is what we had for the most selected players. And for game week 4, the players with the most points. So we had Zubemendi from Arsenal given quite a good number of points. Van de Ven from Spurs, Semenyo, Haaland, Caicedo, Foden. So all in all, these players very Zubemendi. Most players didn't really have them, so we are hoping to see how that goes as well. Then we have Van de Ven. As I said, you should have some defenders from Spurs, so that too was a plus. Semenyo, constant. At least he's providing the goods now. He's a player in form. Haaland, once City score, he should be somewhere around, and it was a plus for most managers. I think this week the top performances were from midfielders. That is withstanding the normal outstanding players. We had most of them being the defensive midfielders. Quite interesting. Let's see what and defenders as well. So let's see what next week or the next game week has for us. So keeping that in mind, you should also remember that heading into game week 5, we have some teams that will be playing midweek, which means some few rotations could come in here and there. As we all saw, Chelsea had that going for them. A few players were rotated, were rested. That was after the international break. You also saw that with Arsenal. Some teams still kept their normal lineup. Most teams kept their normal lineup that you could have, but we had a few transfers or a few early substitutions. So with Arsenal, if you had your points early from Jokeres, you should still be okay. And that was something that I said, because at the end of the day, even though they are going to be focusing on Champions League, they'll want to wrap up everything very quickly. So that was a plus as well. So let's look at the next 2 game weeks. That is game week 5 and 6. So all in all, I think Spurs and Liverpool should have quite favorable fixtures for those 2 game weeks. Nottingham Forest look like a new side ready to provide the goods. So I think this will be the time for Chris Wood to shine, because they are taking on a newly promoted Burnley side. They are not too new to the EPL. Sunderland quite a while, but they are back. So, and they've proven that this season they are going to be a problem. So let's see, because with the experience they have in a few players here and there, they are proven, and Burnley to have that as well. So it's going to be experienced players against the new squad. So let's see how it's going to go, because these guys have played in the EPL before. They know what it takes. They've played at the highest levels. You have players in Xhaka, you have players in Henderson, you have players in Kyle Walker. These players understand what the EPL is all about. City have a good fixture for game week 6. Game week 5 is going to be quite tricky. That is against a very good defensive Arsenal side. So we'll see how that goes as well. Chelsea take on Manchester United, Brighton, Hove Albion. The Manchester United match could go either ways, with this new Manchester United side trying a high line with their shaky defense. We hope it goes Chelsea's way in that match, and also for the Brighton match as well. Aston Villa are yet to provide a good, so you'd want to be very cautious when it comes to them. Arsenal, nevertheless, you could still have a defender or two, because they've proven themselves. We have Bournemouth, quite good fixtures, so you could have a winger or midfielder as well. We'll go through all of this in the pre-game week analysis. So you should be looking out for that. This is just a heads up, just to keep you something to keep you thinking of how things are going to look at. But we'll also go through how the Champions League went and how it's going to affect the subsequent game weeks, as you would have some teams would want to rotate. So we'll go through all of them in due time, but you should be looking out for Liverpool players, for City players, Arsenal players, Nottingham Forest players, Spurs players, Sunderland defenders, Wolves. You could have an attacker. You could have an attacker from Leeds United too as well. Definitely get one from Crystal Palace, and I think you should be good to go. So all in all, it's been quite great this week. We are hoping for the best. I didn't do too well, but as I said, I'm focusing on something different. I had a few constants as usual, but I didn't focus on Haaland. I didn't focus on Pedro. I went with differentials and it didn't pay off this game week, but I know eventually it's going to pay off. So let's get interactive. Kindly subscribe, like, and leave a comment. Let's know how things are also going for you. All right, we are out.